thanks for the quick introduction. And we'll try making the panel like quick and snappy with like a lot of interesting questions. So I guess like how many of you are builders in the room? If you can put your hand up, like trying to build something, deploy it. Okay, one. How many are traders? Traders, none. Okay, there's one over there. There's one trader there. How many are working on a product, whether in your own company or outside? Product? Okay, there's quite a few product people. Got it. So some founders, almost no traders, and a lot of people working on product. And marketing? Marketing is, okay, 4 people. So that's equal amounts as product and marketing. Got it. So good. Like I think we have a rough demographic of the crowd, and we'll see how we can help all of you guys. So I guess the first question is that we have like a really power-packed panel over here. And I guess like a lot of people have ideas in their head which they want to bring into reality. And the first step is often, like after you've got the idea, the first step is figuring out the financing structure for it. And I think we have such a great variety of projects here. We have Eigen, which has like a token. We have L2Beat, which actually got investor money and then returned it, if I remember right. With Aragon, which had a token but then like removed it. And then Etherealize, which is like kind of funded in the typical startup way, in the traditional startup way. So maybe all of you can talk about what the costs and trade-offs are for people who are builders in actually accessing these different financing structures to make their idea come real.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think your financing structure determines your company's objectives and activities. So, venture capitalists are not charities. When they give you money, they desire and expect a financial return. In contrast, a purely public goods funded, grants-based organization can operate in a way that doesn't concern itself with revenue, and address many of the public goods type issues that privately focused efforts cannot properly, are not incentivized to go after.
Yep. But maybe if you can just quickly talk about Etherealize and how you kind of figured out your financing structure and why you made the decisions that you did.
Yeah. Well, we're a weird company. So, as it turns out, a lot of the big investors in crypto have very big ETH bags as well. And, it's the old joke, ETH is the stable coin over the last 4 years. So, they're cool with us doing this public good stuff. And yeah, so we're a very large portion of our activities are devoted to like public goods for Ethereum, to business development, evangelization, policy, these sorts of things. And we have a product arm as well, trying to bring Wall Street to Ethereum L1. So yeah, thanks.
Hi everybody, Anthony from Aragon. Well done. So we have a sort of a hybrid model, you could say. Where we have our protocol, which is actually defined as a public good. Like we sadly don't have like these deep network effects that could use a token, that value could accrue to the token afterwards. This is probably one of the main reasons you would launch a token, where you actually like long term can see the token potentially succeeding, is through these network effects. So this protocol that we built, it's the second version. The first one was in 2017, has about 40 billion in TVL on it, and now we have a new one, which was obviously very challenging to try and accrue Lindy on a new protocol without these network effects or without incentivization. Had to be pure product market fit. We're now over a couple billion as well on that. And that will be free forever for organizations to use for their access control and what we here call governance. So allowing you to do X action under X circumstance. So how do we build on top of that is the question. So if we don't have the network effects to launch a token and accrue value to that token, we need to build on top of that. And so we provide services on top of that where we generate revenue to actually then become sustainable. So it's sort of like a dual model. And so that could mean providing security services. We're on the Security Council of Tycho, for example. L2Beat are on quite a few. I think you're on that one with us as well. We provide custom development support. So we build organizations' access control mechanisms, their governance, their token value accrual models. If you think of partners of ours like Katana, Mode, Puffer, Curve, Lido, etc. So we sort of bake in these two layers. If we could build more network effects on our protocol itself, that obviously would be fantastic, but that's not as easy as you think, especially in governance. So yeah.
Yep. And one thing I'll quickly add to what Anthony said. So they earlier had a token, and after they switched, they've actually found it easier to attract contributors, because what your CTO told me, what Carlos told me was that when you have a token, you can't give like an equity upside to early contributors. So they've actually found it easier to attract contributors after a token. I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I guess it depends how well your token's doing, which most aren't doing super well nowadays. But yes, without the token already being live, you also obviously can there's the promise of what this could be, and that does entice certain people. We're very lucky that we don't have to necessarily rely on a token for creating or bringing in talent. We have a very strong mission. It's been around since 2017. And we're very lucky in that sense, in that we can get those people on board. So yeah, that's somewhat true for sure.
So from us, for L2Bit, the history is that we started with an idea that will create a regular startup. We knew we had this dashboard, which was a public good, but we thought, hey, based on this, maybe we can build some tools, some magic product that will attract a lot of users, and it'll be great startup. So we collected a very small round from angel investors, but quickly we realized that first of all, this public good thing is actually quite important, and simply it's important overall for us to do it properly. And we find out that we like doing it, and that as we find it important, we like working on it. We really, pay a lot of attention to it, and we put all our heart into this public good stuff. And at some point, we realized that we don't have that much heart we don't have an idea for a product that would be hockey stick growth. We had a lot of ideas for some, business offerings that would allow us to generate normal revenue. But if you take investors' money, and this is actually what you said, that the financial structure defines what you can build. Not what you won't build, but what you can build. So with investors that are expecting 10 times to 100 times returns, if you want to deliver them on those expectations, you need to build a hockey stick growth product, which will generate hockey stick growth revenue stream, and you will be able to share this value, this revenue back to investors. And in the past, both me and Bartek, we did a lot of, we worked in a lot of companies, also companies with VC funding and doing regular startup growth from 5 to 20 to 150 to 1,000 employees. And we knew that that's not what's going to happen. Simply, we knew at the stage that this is not what L2Bit will be, at least in the foreseeable future. So we decided, and by the time we received some grants, most notably we received Optimism retroactive public goods funding, and we realized that we received these grants because people value what we are doing. So we had this crazy idea. How about we return the money to the investors? We kill the whole business aspect of this initiative. We drop the dreams of building hockey stick growth product, and we just rely on grants and public goods funding with an assumption that if we do something that is good and valuable and valued by the community and projects in this space, we will be able to secure funding. And by the time that we are not able to secure funding, this is a strong signal that maybe either what we are building is not valuable or we are doing something wrong. And this will be a signal for us that we need to change something. And that's what we did. That's the stage at which we are at right now. Right now, I already know that this is not the end state, I would say. I think that while we have an enormous support, and I would like to thank everybody that supports us, all the grant programs, Ethereum Foundation, all the ecosystems that are supporting us, because we will be announcing soon, I'm showing Alpha will be announcing soon, the partnership fund that we've built that is a support from ecosystem projects for L2Bit, for our operations. So while we absolutely admire that, we know that this can't be like that forever, because the value that we are bringing, the assessment that we are bringing is valuable not just for those open source projects and all those communities. There is a very important value that is for the business, for corporates out there, for governments, for everybody to know, to have an insight into what exactly is this infrastructure we are building with. I had a lot of meetings this week with people who are interested in, okay, how can they know the assessment on a given chain or of a given project, not just one snapshot in time, but monitoring it continuously, and we are providing that. So I think that in the future we will be adapting and evolving on this model, but this is what worked for us so far. But this is not the only public goods project that I'm involved with. I also am a co-founder of public domain ebook library in Poland, which is running for 15 years, and what I can say is that public goods funding is super hard. It's a tough and challenging thing to secure, future for. And anybody who wants to do it and thinks that it will be easier than securing funding for a regular company, no, I would like to correct you. It's way harder, way more work. It's the same work. You have to do the same sales, the same pitching as with regular company, simply the checks are smaller and it's way harder to convince people to give them. So that's our story.
Yeah, I think that's amazing history that you shared. I guess one quick follow-up would be, how much of it was that you got a great team together and the dashboard that you created, which has a lot of value, got product market fit, so you went there, versus you knew from the start that this is what you wanted to do and something. Like where exactly did the change come about?
So it wasn't the change actually, it was us realizing what the reality is. But it is actually interesting that, about the team. We have a great team, and I would say that everybody in our team is super dedicated to the thing that we are doing. Because, I sadly have to admit, we are probably not paying the biggest salaries in the market. People, I think that everybody in our team, if they wanted to try to find some other job, they would be able to probably find a better paid job in the market. But everybody realizes, everybody in the team realizes, first of all, the importance of what we are doing, the impact in the world that we are causing, and the reputational kind of boost of being in L2Beat. I can tell you that the reason why I'm wearing L2Beat t-shirt everywhere on those conferences is, one, I want to be, I want to be achievable. I want people to be able to come to me and tell me what they want L2Beat to do. But also it's great that, whenever I go through conference like that, people, just stop me and say, hey, I love L2Beat, you are doing a great job. And that's amazing. This is a tangible value. If you can build this in your project, in your company, this is a tangible value that translates to your team's dedication, your team's motivation, and your team's performance.
All right, I guess that leaves me then. So for Eigenlabs, which has created EigenLayer and EigenCloud, it is VC backed, and we do have a token as well. And to your point earlier, there are then maybe other priorities to be able to build out this infrastructure in the first place. I guess like Eigen essentially introduced a different way to be able to build essentially services, right? So Ethereum is clearly proven out. Proof of stake is being able to be secure at scale, and we're seeing that with inflows. And then the idea is, how do you extend the design space essentially that you can build new services on top, right? So EigenLayer itself, building out this marketplace structure, bringing together stakers and operators, kind of very core, let's say, primitives, which is just kind of clay almost that you can now build on top of, right? So teams can now build arbitrary services, like in Oracles of the world, bridges, and we've also built out first-party services. So I think that there's two angles maybe. Is one, the design space, how do you actually enable that? And that's been resulting as well of solving problems for our customers, right? There are many different people that have previously had decided to build their own L1, their own chain, because that was the primitive that they had at hand. And now we're realizing, as we're going through these, with design partners, you have to prioritize and solve a problem for them. So building out core primitives. So this is EigenDA, verify, and compute, such that it accelerates the time for these teams to be able to build them, either that previously weren't possible or like in a way that is more secure than before. So I think that with the structure of that, you do have to find like customers, right? You have to solve a problem for these customers and like iterate over time as well. And that's like I think illustrative for like first-party services that we have. These are both like the primitives as well as other AVSs like our AI AVS that we will release. And I think that the other part as well is we do have a token as well, which is like securing these services under the hood as well. So I think it's an interesting balance probably between those of like bootstrapping a new ecosystem, working with existing ecosystems, right? These are smart contracts that are deployed on Ethereum, and like how do you work within the existing Ethereum landscape and be able to like expand the design space as possible, and I think that's really the intention. But then also working with like net new customers, and some of these first party services are maybe able to like speak to that of like you have direct ability to like pay for these services as well as the underlying like security.
Right, and a quick follow up would be that how has having a token changed your job as a developer relations engineer? Like is like when you're working with open source communities, is it different when you have a token versus when you don't? And how has that changed the dynamics with even like others, customers and all, or has it not impacted it at all, which would be great?
I feel like it would be naive to say that it hasn't impacted it. At the same time, like the utility for this is also like underlying like a security model for these like services as well. So one of it is like an educational, like intersubjective is a very abstract concept. So being able to like demonstrate and articulate that and like how these services actually function and what they can offer to these teams, that's one aspect of it. Maybe the other is that like on the foundation side as well, these like grants that you're speaking to, there are some things that aren't necessarily like for-profit like enterprises, right? These are like public goods that are like offering better services for the ecosystem as a whole, right? And like how do you like are you able to like fund that? And some of these teams need to be able to have the runway so that they don't have the traditional business models of like just paying for a service, right? They're providing something that isn't task-based, let's say, or service-based. So I think that that's like one aspect. I don't know how fundamentally if I'd be able to put it to like one point what that means, but probably some combination of education, like how it's used, and then the other one is as well as like being cognizant of the ecosystem of how do you actually bring that to life, both existing right within the Ethereum ecosystem as well as with ours that we're like building out.
Yeah, that's great to know. So the next one is a bit of a spicy question, so you can take it or leave it, which is that like the first part is if you can talk about that if you're maximally successful, then what would change as a result of your project succeeding beyond its wildest dreams? And the second, like the spicier part is what role should the Ethereum Foundation be having to actually support all of these like 4 projects which have already proven their value and reached some maturity and some scale? Like how should, so I mean like I know with Etherealize, we supported you I think in the early days, and now you've kind of been a bird pushed out of the nest and able to fly. Same with L2Beat, like we gave a big grant and that probably enabled you to also get other funders and like work with some longevity, which is the biggest issue in public goods. With Aragon, I think we need to do a little more. And with Eigen, I don't know much that's going on, at least at like the operational level and working. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about what the world is if you're maximally successful and how the EF can help you get there.
I can take it. So for me, the world in which we are successful is a world in which it is unacceptable to be like to deploy capital. If you are let's say fund or a pension fund, in the future of course you will have some digital assets in your portfolio, but it should be unacceptable to deploy those funds on something that is not meaningfully secure. And by meaningfully secure I mean stage 2 rollup on L2Beat with our assessment that guarantees that the funds on this rollup are secured by Ethereum or Ethereum mainnet itself. And I think that one of the, like, I had a couple of meetings this week in which I was saying that something that Ethereum, like I truly believe, I know that it's not very humble of me to say that, but I truly believe that we give this additional value to Ethereum, that we have this assessment, that we have this dashboard that shows how secure are projects that are being built on top of it. Solana doesn't have it, Avalanche doesn't have it, Ripple, I don't even think that they will ever have it. So how can all those companies that are working with those ecosystems know how exactly can they even assess what they are building and assess what their partners that they are building with? Where in Ethereum you can have it, because in Ethereum we have these monitoring tools, we have this assessment framework, we know how to validate these things, we know what to look in the code for. So this is a huge value in terms of even compliance assessment. So what I'm trying to do right now is make sure the whole world is doing all those regulatory frameworks. And in every regulatory framework, there is a mention of decentralization. In MiCA in Europe, there is this exception for meaningfully decentralized projects. If I understand correctly, in the Clarity Act, also it is mentioned that the projects need to be decentralized. And somebody at some point will be trying to figure out what decentralization actually means. My job is to make sure that they can't ignore the work that we've put so far into this, and that they can't ignore what we have so far. So they can't claim that they don't know how to assess it. We already know, at least, maybe we haven't figured it all out, but we figured enough so that they can't ignore it, and they can't simply try to claim that it doesn't exist. So this will be my success. And how should Ethereum be supporting it? As long as it provides value, Ethereum should not be just supporting it. Ethereum should be making use of it and extracting value from the fact that we exist and that we are here. Because every week I'm hearing about someone doing something like L2Bit for something. And they think that I will be upset that they are copying our model, but no, I'm rooting for them, keeping fingers crossed, but good luck. This is super hard thing to do. In order for this website to exist, we have 25 people team, almost 25, working on it, analyzing, creating tooling. There is a lot of tooling behind the scenes to make L2Bit work. So there's a lot of work to be done, and it's not easily reproducible in other ecosystems.
No, I think that's a great suggestion for us, that we should try finding people who will derive value from the work of L2Bit. Yeah.
I'm happy to take the question. If we're maximally successful, Ethereum runs the global economy. And and I would also say, as far as what the Ethereum Foundation should do for projects that have already achieved success, is talk to those projects, integrate their feedback into protocol design and R&D. I think over the last few years there was a big communications breakdown there, but I think with the recent pivot, maybe that's changing. And so yeah, I think the recent acknowledgement of DeFi is great to see. Things of this sort. Really just having very open communication lines with those projects and taking their feedback seriously and integrating it into the protocol.
No, I think that's really good to share. And I'll tell you one story about Tomasz. When I just joined the EF, we had our first town hall with him, and he basically started the town hall by saying, I have spoken to 300 people in the last month, and these are the 60 things that I'm hearing again and again. And he just drew us through this entire long list of 60 things, and it was super inspiring that he's not telling us what to work on. He's just being like a journalist saying that this is what people are saying again and again. So I think that pivot is definitely already arrived, Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can take it. Yeah, if Eigen is successful in our mission, it means that we have apps at scale that are used worldwide that get better guarantees. What I mean by that is that the apps that have scale today are largely purely smart contracts. It's because they have the complete security of Ethereum behind them. They have programmable finance, programmable money, whatever you want to term it. And the design space that I think Ethereum was aiming for, and hopefully still is aiming for, is this opportunity to frankly build a better internet, right? And essentially expand the design space past like purely things that can fit on a smart contract. The EVM is awesome at what it does, right? Like this proof of stake that you're talking about powering the world economy is incredibly powerful, but it doesn't necessarily mean that applications have to just fit in a smart contract. So if we are successful, we're able to power a new internet that gives better guarantees to their users. I think that the powers of Ethereum, I would go, maybe this is simplifying it to two aspects. It's like decentralization and essentially strong guarantees. And what I mean by decentralization, it's permissionless. It means your users can be global. Strong guarantees, thanks to like proof of stake, that means that your application just works. You get guarantees if you write the smart contract correctly, you're gonna get a better product that now can, be used across the world. We see it with like Aave on the previous panel as well. So being able to build full stack applications that users use and can be powered like under the hood, I think is like really the design space. And how do we achieve that? Like how might we work together? I think it's like the sparks of the early inspiration that Ethereum had. It's like, how can we actually build that practically today? We're not just constrained to solely what can like just fit into the EVM. It's like building these full stack applications, these decentralized Ubers of the world. Like, let's figure out like ways that we can actually build these. And I guess more practically, what I mean by that is collaborating on the developer ecosystem as a whole is like inspiring a new set of developers that can like carry on and bring this new set of applications to life. And then, like an open channel, essentially being able to have this like feedback both on the things that we're building and like how we can help like contribute. I think two-way communication is incredibly beneficial.
Got it. So like reviewing a lot of products which are being built with Eigen and others is something that can be helpful on our side at the EF, that we can actually look at what products are being built and do write-ups on them.
I think that's one aspect, but also like practically, like how do we facilitate like developers? How do we inspire developers, right? It's not just a one-man team, right? It shouldn't ever be a one-man team, and I think like would love to work across the Ethereum ecosystem to be able to realize that.
Yeah, I love the vision. We have like 90 billion staked, I think, give or take. We should be using that in more creative ways as well, definitely.
How would the world look if Aragon was successful is very interesting. It would be quite a different world, I think. We obviously allow organizations, protocols, networks to manage their permissions, to be controlled, and by who. And decentralization is a means to an end, not the end itself. And so we're quite flexible in allowing that. But at the end of the day, ownership is the real gift that the blockchain can give us. For the first time, we can execute on actions without a trusted intermediary. We can actually have large groups of people own and benefit from these protocols and networks. And so we allow organizations to do that. So what would that look like? It looks like Lido right now, where there is distributed ownership of the entire network itself, etc. There's very few projects that have actually done that. We're all working towards getting there. It's very challenging to decentralize your network, and there's certain levels of doing it. One is immutability. We all love immutability, but the fact is that not all organizations and their protocols can be immutable from day one. Changes have to happen often. And so that means it then falls down to this layer that we call governance. And in this governance layer, we have automation and we have actual decision making or execution, right? And so we want to lean on automation as much as we can to remove the human from touching everything and potentially making mistakes, but at the same time, we want humans to be able to own and make decisions when they can. And so in that world, all of these networks would not only be owned by the people who should be owning them and put skin in the game to seed them and fund them, but they would receive value back from actually doing that. And that's what we call token value accrual. So we would have this mechanism where owners benefit from the system improving, and this incentive alignment means that we can go really far as a protocol, as an organization, as Ethereum. So we're working deep at that layer. What could the EF do? Like you sort of alluded to it, like Aragon's existed since 2017, and this is the first year that EF has ever reached out to speak to us in 8 years. And it's a wonderful thing now. I've had a meeting with Vitalik last week. I've met with Tomasz. I've met with Aya. I've met with the whole team now. And now there is actually this true feeling that they care and they want to work with you. Like one of our team members is going to fly out to their offsite, and like this is what we need. Like we're not asking for money from them. We're going to try to figure that out on top of our protocol level ourselves. But what we need from the Ethereum Foundation is to work together, to learn from them. There's brilliant people on that team, and I think just that alone is going to take our space really far. And I do understand why the EF over the years actually tried to move away from that. And it was a conscious decision, and they had a reasoning for that. They wanted to move to the background and let things emerge organically. But the ecosystem and all the projects have really signaled that that's not the case. And what you have happen in that case is you have exit. When you don't have voice as a person, in a human, in a relationship, in anything you do, what do? You typically exit. And that's probably why we saw the Ethereum price struggle itself, and now you're starting to see this turn around. So it's wonderful. I'm really happy about it, and yeah, let's keep doing it.
That's great. Putting the ownership in Web3, I think that's like putting that in good ways.
Build something worth owning.
Yes, right. I often tell people that like more important than governance is actually building something worth governing. I think that's a lesson from Krzysztof actually. Like when we worked together in the days of Arbitrum DAO. So I think like just to respond before we wrap up because we are at time. So something I've been advocating for internally at the EF is like we had a policy of subtraction where we purposely don't take on tasks so that the ecosystem has room to take it on and we leave a vacuum. And this is what created the infinite garden, that we have so many teams working on client development, so many amazing products over here. But I think in the next phase of Ethereum growth, I personally think that we should have synthesis where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We already have a lot of trees and plants in the infinite garden, and how do we now let them mingle their roots with each other and share resources and do all of that? So I think that's really what hopefully we can head into for Ethereum 3.0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.